Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Cardinals on SI podcast with Alex D'Agostino. I am Donnie Druin, and like always, we appreciate all the support. Go comment, like, subscribe to the channel. All the support is definitely appreciated. Follow Alex on Twitter at AlexDagAZ. Follow me on Twitter at Donnie Druin. This is an emergency episode. Sound the alarm, break the glass, Alex. Actual news has hit the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray will not return in the 2025 season. That could arguably be debated, that everybody saw it coming, but made official by head coach Jonathan Gannon today. We'll get into that here in just a second. But Alex, how are you, my guy? Happy Friday.
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm just splendid, man. Always got to love working in this business and never really knowing when the balloon's going to pop, I guess, per se. But even more exciting whenever you know it's coming, you just don't know when. And, you covering the D-backs for SI and, being with PHNX for Cardinals coverage as well. I think you know exactly kind of how that goes down.
Yeah, it's an adventure. You never know what's around the corner.
That's right, man. I always say, covering sports is like the world's greatest reality TV show. You never really know what's going to come next. I think that bodes true for the Cardinals, Alex, is today during Jonathan Gannon's Friday media availability, we learned that Kyler Murray would not return for the rest of the season. Granted, there's only 5 weeks left. He was already previously ruled out for week 14 earlier in the week, but Gannon making it very clear today when speaking with reporters that Kyler will not return. To quote, Kyler will not play again this year. He had some more tests on this week, went out of state, got another opinion on it, which is never a good thing. It's not progressing where it's going to make sense that he can go. So he's going to be done for the year. Alex, just give me your initial knee-jerk reactions, takeaways, whatever you want to call it.
I think that this was never really that big of a surprise. I think once he went on IR, I think this was kind of the expectation. I know a lot of people probably wanted to see him come back, or a lot of people thought that he would come back, after if Jacoby had a couple of rough games, whatever. But I don't. I'm not really that surprised. I think the writing was on the wall for this to happen as soon as he went on IR, and it stopped being he might play next week, and we got kind of past that whole soft benching conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I think that whole school of conversation and thought was, will he, won't he return? You brought up the soft benching, which I think is kind of like a perfect segue. Is if Kyler, and it's so weird, 'cause the reporting on it initially, Alex, was it's a week-to-week injury, and then it turned into a 4 to 6 week injury. But he was always expected to return at some point. He was, I guess, a better phrasing of that would be, he was expected to be healthy at some point. Return would be a whole other question. And I think the emergence of Jacoby Brissett and how well the offense kind of took that next step, at least statistically, because we haven't seen hardly any more wins under Jacoby, at least how it's taking that next step with the eye test and the box score, they felt a little bit more comfortable taking their time with Kyler than you alluded to the soft benching, which I think for my money, I was a little in denial about it whenever like all of this first happened and they were kind of taking their time with Kyler. But I think over the course of time, it slowly kind of revealed itself to be exactly that they were more than comfortable with Jacoby, and, with so much around Kyler's future heading into the 2026 offseason, will they, won't he play? It's such a nuanced conversation, but at the end of the day, Alex, like they finally put a stop to it. They closed the door on it. Kyler's not going to play in 2025. And to be honest, man, like I have mixed feelings about that. I think if you do look to trade him, if you do look to cut him next offseason, I think that makes sense. The last thing you want is to get Kyler out there and meaningless football games. They're not even in the playoff picture anymore. They got eliminated from postseason contention last week. To throw him in a meaningless game, if you do intend to plan on move him, the risk reward for that is not worth it. In my opinion, I think they're much better off sticking with Jacoby, sticking with what they got right now. And then whenever the dust finally settles on the regular season, then they can kind of turn the clocks forward and think about 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, and I mean it's hard to deny that, ultimately Jacoby is throwing for, 450 yards, 250 plus per game and like the numbers were there, and it looked like for a few weeks it looked like he was really more what they wanted for their offensive system and being able to kind of step up into the pocket, throw downfield a little bit better. So I think, I think there was that brief period where it was maybe like an audition for Jacoby to see like, well, is it actually better? And I think it doesn't really matter because they just can't win in general, and all
Sure.
phases are kind of a mess. But I think once they saw that, why, I'm not like, I think it's easy to take a look at this and say, oh well, they made up this injury. He was on the practice field, and then suddenly, like, no, like he's injured. I mean, this is a foot injury, a type of foot injury that is much worse than I think it appears it is, and that has happened to guys before.
Yeah, and I'll interject really quick, Alex, because like I'm not allowed to say what I've seen outside of like the open window of practice, but like during the open portion to the media during practices and when he's been out there, he hasn't looked 100%. In my opinion, he has not looked 100%. So I think maybe it's like shout out to Hannah Montana, maybe the best of both worlds, where like Kyler is hurt, like that is real, but also like he was kind of benched for Jacoby Brissett at the same time.
I think, yeah, it was a safe way to bench him to see what they had in Jacoby, but I also think that they're not going to push Kyler if he's not 100%. Why would you push him out there while hurt? Like if they're
Yeah,
looking to if they're looking to trade him, or if they're looking to keep him, there's no reason to put him out there for the rest of the season. So shut it down if it's not 100%. There's nothing wrong with that, and I don't think that we should be pointing fingers at the process for this ultimate decision. I think this is the right decision for where the team is, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
the good old process, man. Process over result oriented.
Yeah.
The trademark of head coach Jonathan Gannon, and I like they brought those points up too because I think that perfectly encapsulates Gannon's kind of philosophy with the players, not just as franchise quarterback, but everybody else. Alex is number one. He's always going to do what's best for the players first in terms of health and interest, and two, like since the moment he's walked through the door, Jonathan Gannon has done nothing but praise Kyler Murray. He has never spoke a bad word about Kyler Murray over a microphone. And regardless of your thoughts and opinions on Kyler as a player, as a person, whatever it might be, I at least respect that Gannon has kept, if there's any slight negative connotation or thoughts towards Kyler, you could never tell in public interviews. Never, ever, ever. I think that's exactly how it should go. And like he like I said, he's backed Kyler since day one. And so I think like him like soft benching Kyler was almost like the perfect segue to saying, hey, you know what? Let's see what we have in Jacoby, but like we're not throwing Kyler under the bus at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard for fans to, I think, be okay with that because Kyler has been such a big part of this organization. But at the end of the day, like this has been coming for a little while, and I think
Mhm.
you can look at the records and you can say, well, the Cardinals won 2 games with Kyler playing, and they've won 1 game with Jacoby, and it's, yes, the record is bad, and the whole team is bad, and everything is bad. But did you watch Kyler Murray play in those 2 games and said, oh yeah, like this guy, he's got it, like this is the guy, and not to dump on him either, but it was like clearly there was some kind of disconnect there, and so why wouldn't you pivot off of that in the first place? You know what I mean? Or try to. And if that didn't work, then it's a whole different conversation. But I think now it's like it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Nothing that they
Yep.
do matters.
That's life in general, my guy. Nothing matters. But always, always remember that. Dude, I thought I closed my blinds properly before the show, but I guess not. I keep trying to play dodge the sunlight.
It's
But
not war
I,
paint that you got down on your.
nah, man, nah, not yet. I'm not. Wait until it turns like 3 o'clock. I'll turn into 9. Shout out JJ McCarthy, man. Let's go over Kyler's kind of just tenure in Arizona with what feels like the end of it coming. Number one pick in 2019, Heisman Trophy winner, one of college football's most exciting prospects. This was a year after the Cardinals took Josh Rosen, another top pick. And there was so much excitement around Rosen coming out of UCLA. He obviously didn't pan out. They fire Wilkes. They bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who had a love affair with Kyler. He was adamant before he even took the job that if he was the head coach of a team picking number one, he would take Kyler Murray. Lo and behold, that turned out to be true. He was offensive rookie of the year. I think he made did he make a Pro Bowl his rookie year? I know he's a multi-time Pro
Uh,
Bowler.
might have been an alternate.
I don't know off the top of my head, but he does have a few Pro Bowls to his name. Had an incredible 2021 season. They started out the year, 7-0, something like that. Ended up making the playoffs, the only time in Kyler's career where Arizona made the postseason, but we all remember how that ended in LA. Tears his ACL at the end of 2022, returns in 2023. Give or take performance, it's always going to be so whenever guys emerge from a serious knee injury like he did. I think he tore his meniscus as well, if I'm not mistaken. He had the hot start in 2024. The team was 6-4, entering the bye week, top spot in the NFC West, crumbled at the end. 2025, played a handful of games, and here we are, man. Here we are. What a career it has been already for Kyler. 7 years in the rearview mirror for him now officially. And sometimes, Alex, it's hard to wrap your head around Kyler Murray because he's such a polarizing figure, uber talented, but also like the shortcomings, no pun intended, like they're there and they're real.
Yeah, it feels weird to look back on it and say that it's been 7 like if this feels like yesterday that they
Yeah.
drafted him first. And I think part of that has been kind of that unfortunate sort of feeling like he every time he's gotten closer to his ceiling, he's taken a step back. And I think one of the things it's like you hear the short jokes and the Call of Duty jokes, and all of that is BS. Like the part that I think bugs me, and I'm not necessarily a Kyler apologist. I'm not necessarily
Mhm.
like a huge, I'm not dying on that hill day in and day out. But I think one of the things throughout his career that has bugged me the most with people's evaluations is that nobody was ever honest about his shortcomings. Nobody was ever honest about where the issues were. It was always some BS about not liking football or about playing video games or about being too short. I've done this bit on Twitter recently, and it's probably
Oh yeah.
gotten really old. But every time a quarterback in any game in the NFL has a pass swatted at the line of scrimmage, I say, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes had that ball batted down at the line of scrimmage because he's too short." Because it's
Yeah.
just like, and again, I'm not even like riding my horse for Kyler or anything. It's just like, but I think but I just think that I think that it's so hard for people to look at him objectively, and I think you don't there's no one falls in the middle. No one falls in the middle of, well, he's very talented but this and this is wrong. It's always, the organization screwed him over and he would be the MVP if Drew Petzing wasn't here, or he's terrible and worthless and needed to be traded forever ago. And it's like, guys, can we can we be honest about like what we've had for 7 years here?
Yeah, man. Kyler for sure is one of the probably the most polarizing figure in Arizona sports. I've been around Cardinals players and Suns players. You've been around Diamondbacks players. Like we've been around the majority of professional athletes in Arizona for some time now, Alex. And I cannot remember a guy who just splits a fan base like Kyler Murray has, man. And there's seemingly no changing anybody's mind on him. Like if you're set on one side or the other, like there's no trying to find like a middle ground that doesn't exist when you talk about Kyler Murray. And I think I put out a tweet earlier today where it's like both of these things can be true. That Kyler, his time in Arizona has clearly run its course. It's been 7 years. We know what he is as a Cardinals quarterback. It's probably time to move on. But also, like, he's still a capable guy. Like, he's still a very talented quarterback who could find success elsewhere. And even that one sent people on both sides into a frenzy. It's like, guys, like, I'm not saying you need to like plant your flag and like do any like victory laps one way or another, but like it's possible that there's nuance to these conversations. These are not black and white 100% solid hot or cold takes. Like, and that's what comes with playing in a team game, but playing the most important position in said team game. And I like how you brought up the point earlier, Alex, how you said, for as much as we've seen the talent, he can never reach his potential. It's like the dad promising to take his kids to Disneyland. Like, yeah, like we'll go to Disneyland. Hey, I'm looking at the tickets right now. We're gonna go to Disneyland, but like we never get on the road to Disneyland. The one time we got on the road, we got a flat tire and we had to turn around and go home. You know, like it's just it's always it's just always something with Kyler. That's not on Kyler Murray. But it's just always whenever you talk about Kyler and you evaluate his time in Arizona, the 7 years he spent in the desert, a lot of the times it's, well, yeah, he's good, but. And if we're still having that conversation 7 years into his career, maybe it's time to go on to the brighter pastures.
And quite frankly, if he departs, like I want to see him succeed, and I really hope that he has a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold type resurgence with an organization somewhere.
He's gonna look great in Minnesota, brother.
I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate watching that. But I think it's just because it's like we've seen the ceiling and we've seen the floor, and the floor is pretty ugly, and the ceiling is really, really electric. I mean, that 2021, that 7-0 run, like people act like that was a fluke, but it was like, no, like the dude was making throws, unbelievable throws for 7 weeks. It wasn't 1 or 2 games. It was people like to say, oh, like people think of that season as the Titans game, and then it doesn't matter. But it's like that was 7 games of sustainable, unbelievable play out of him and the rest of the team. And Cliff was calling some great plays, and it was everything. But then I would argue like the second half of 2024 was really when I first kind of thought, if this is Kyler bottoming out, like this team's not going to win a lot of games like this. I mean, like that Seahawks game, which I called and everyone called me crazy, that Seahawks game and the Panthers game.
I remember you texted me. You texted me before that Seahawks game, and you were like, "Dude, this is not going to be good. They are going to run them."
Yeah, and particularly, I was like, "This is going to be a bad matchup for Kyler because look, he can't handle interior pressure very well, and it's not because he's short, but his accuracy over the middle of the field is not amazing. But there are also
that plays a part into it. If we're being honest,
a little bit, yes.
I think that plays a part into it.
Yes, but I don't think that's a factor that should limit his ability to play in the NFL completely. I think that's an indictment on some of the scheme and the play calling that we've seen. If they couldn't have diagnosed that a little bit better. But
touching on that, man, but like pre second half 2024, we saw Kyler sling it. Like we saw him make throws at every level on an NFL field.
Like the Dolphins game, even.
And that's the thing, man. Like we saw Kyler in the first half of 2024 lead them on numerous game-winning drives. You know, it's not like it like disappeared out of thin air, but like when you take into account like he was still kind of rehabbing that knee from his 2022 ACL like surgery, because he came back the second half of 2023 and he clearly was not the same guy. And you hear guys even talk about it so often. Like it takes more than a year for you to fully, even like mentally, kind of like trust your knee again to like fully recover from that. And like I don't know if it's just like the ACL injury, like getting recovered from that. The massive shift in offensive philosophy, like needs to be talked about, because going from a Cliff Kingsbury offense to a Drew Petzing offense is a night and day difference.
From a college offense to a pro offense.
Dude, and but like the first half of 2024, it worked. They were running the ball, they were playing defense. Kyler was making throws that he needed to, and it all collapsed, and kind of like here we are. And unfortunately, man, like the dominoes that fell from the second half of 2024 reared its ugly head into this year. Because even like you said, even in those first 2 wins against the Saints and then the Panthers, it wasn't like they blew them out. It wasn't like we walked away from those wins saying, man, like they look good.
Yeah.
Because they didn't. They crawled to those wins. Go ahead.
And Kyler made a mistake in that Panthers game that I think I even texted you, and I was like, that could have been a game-losing mistake right there. Mm-hmm. You know, like that that throwing the ball away to nobody, like floating that up there. Remember, like in they were driving, they were like about to put them away, and
Mhm.
under pressure, he just kind of like lobs the ball up, and it was like that kind of mistake is like, to me, when I was like, that's like a rookie level mistake. Like you can't do that.
Sure.
You can't do that.
And there were even times like this year and last year to where like instead of like throwing the ball away, he runs out of bounds and takes a sack. Or instead of like taking a sack to like get clock off, he tries to make something happen and ends up like turning the ball over. So it's like
Yeah.
the inconsistency has always been the biggest thing for me. And that really never wavered since Kyler Murray got here. Because we saw the highs and we saw the lows, and you heard so many people talk about it. Like if Kyler can just like find that consistent level of play while still having that high upside, like the Cardinals are golden. And that just for whatever reason never came to fruition. And there's so many different moving parts and factors into why that may or may not have played out. But at the end of the day, it hasn't. It hasn't. And like to be frank, man, like if the Cardinals do move on from Kyler Murray, which gives us a perfect segue into our little last slide here, the whole argument of, well, what if he goes and he balls out somewhere else? That should not be a concern for the Cardinals, man. That should not be a reason to keep Kyler. That should not prevent the Cardinals from saying, you know what if he looks good somewhere else? We should keep him. We've seen him 7 years in the desert, man. Right, wrong, or different. It's just it hasn't happened, and it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's like you get a little taste of that eliteness that I know is in there, and then you're like, but what if it just takes one more year? What if he needs
Mhm.
one more year with this offense? Well, but here's the problem: is Drew Petzing coming back? Because if Drew Petzing is
Jacoby's made that a conversation now. I
exactly,
will say.
exactly, but if he doesn't, because Drew's on an expiring contract, so
Mhm.
if he doesn't come back, then that is now Kyler's third quarterback or third play caller in 7 years, and he's been hurt for a year and a half of that, right? So we're gonna try him again with another play caller if that happens. Like, is that really what we want to see happen? Like, I think if you want a reset of the offensive staff, and I know a lot of people want Gannon and Austin Fort gone, and that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're starting over, even just offensively, you're starting over with a new quarterback, and you're starting over with you're rebuilding the offense to a degree with a new quarterback. That's what you have to do. You can't, and I think that might have been the downfall a little bit of this regime, was saying, okay, so we're ripping it all down, but we're keeping our franchise quarterback. And it looked like an advantage at the time, but I think it may have kind of forced them into a corner offensively that was not compatible with what they wanted to do, and kind of set them back in that process.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense, Alex, because and it's funny, I thought Drew Petzing's offense was perfect for Kyler. And whenever I say that, I mean it was something to where the system of, hey, we're gonna have a strong running game, we're gonna run the ball 30, 35 times a night, and we're gonna utilize play action, we're gonna keep defenses honest, close to the line of scrimmage. And Kyler's athletic ability and his mobility on top of his arm talent, that should lead to good results. Like that is basically saying, hey, Kyler, like we're not going to ask you to be Superman. You don't have to throw for 403 touchdowns every week. Like we can ask you to essentially be a very refined but high upside game manager. Is what Drew Petzing's offense wanted him to be. It worked for the first half of 2024, but where it kind of boiled down was defenses quickly figured out, hey, this offense is not adapting. They're doing the same schemes over and over again. If we stop the run on first and second down and force the Cardinals into obvious passing downs, and we get them into third and medium, third and long, we like our chances over the course of the game. So, yeah, we're going to load the box. We're going to put 7 or 8 guys in there. Run the ball. You can't. It's a numbers game. You can't do that.
Yeah, but sorry, continue.
No. Good.
I was just going to say, by trying to by trying to prevent them from needing Kyler to play hero ball, they forced him into a higher stakes hero ball role. Because once the run game wasn't working, it was, well, it's 3rd and 13. Hey, Kyler, make a miracle happen or it's over. And it was like, well, how about give him 3 chances to make a miracle happen? You know?
Yep.
So it's like, if you're gonna make him play hero ball, then why are you limiting it to like very specific high stakes downs? And it kind of forced him to look worse, I think, in that sense.
I would agree. And I think it's so funny because like the offense didn't change. It literally did not change from 2024 to 2025, like personnel wise, and like anything if you watch a Cardinals football game pre Jacoby Brissett and you just put it up on a projector, I wouldn't be able to tell you if it was this year or last year. And a big thing too that we talked about, I remember talking to you about this in the offseason, Alex. Clayton Adams dipped, and I'm like,
Yep.
All right, man. So you got no more weapons on offense. You sunk all of your resources into the defense, hoping it'd be an elite, like top 6, top 7 unit. You're running it back offensively and hoping the power of friendship will take the next step for you and Marv and everybody else. You lost your top assistant coach, who apparently, according to people in the building, had a lot to do with scheming and game planning. And you're seeing that now with the Dallas Cowboys, whose offense is putting up 30 whenever they decide to blink.
Javonte Williams looks like James Conner all of a sudden. I wonder why.
He's the NFL's leading rusher, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the Cowboys have a banged up offensive line, don't they?
Yep.
Crazy. And then it's so odd, and sorry to get off on a Drew Petzing tangent.
No, it's all like, part of
it. It is because like the Petzing's thing coming from the Kevin Stefanski coaching tree is, hey, we know how to scheme and design runs. And it's like Clayton Adams leaves, and it's like you can't even get the run game going, man. Like your bread and butter, and you don't even have a knife, dog. Like, what are we doing here, man?
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, that's really, if you want to point anything at this season, yes, you're getting a lot of production now with Jacoby, but it's the run game not working. And I think that is partly like what was so great about Kyler was that he kind of supplemented the run game a little bit with himself. And, especially like how many of those third down, 3rd and medium to long, and it's like, oh, well, this play's over. And then he scrambles out and gets a first down. And it's like, oh my God, like the drive is this drive was dead. And it's not, and it was like, well, yeah, it wasn't necessarily like a West Coast style, but that was keeping the ball on the ground. That was keeping the ball, like playing ball control.
I'll tell you, whenever I was in last year, whenever they were on the road against San Francisco, and they pulled out that last second win, and it was I forgot what play of the game it was, but it was like that 50-yard run Kyler.
Oh yeah.
And dude, he's running, and Nova's catching him. He puts his arm up at like the 45-yard line.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Tom Brady's screaming.
I'm like, this is what this offense is supposed to look like, man.
Yeah.
Like this on its best day, this is what it's looked like. But like it just hasn't reached its best day. And as a result, Kyler's probably gone. Alex, we can talk about this until we are blue in the face. Is Kyler Murray back here next year?
I don't think so. I think it would be.
I would agree.
Pretty shocking if. I wouldn't be surprised if he was cut if they didn't find a trade partner. As much as that would suck to watch, I would not be surprised.
I would agree. If I'm a betting man, I don't think he's here next year. I do think there's a small window of possibility that he is here next year. Just looking at if you are in search of like immediate potential long-term options, there's nothing in free agency. The best name is going to be Daniel Jones, but the Colts are not going to let him out of the facility.
No.
It sounds crazy to say like a year ago if you were like, hey, like really hope Daniel Jones gets out of the Colts facility. Hope they don't franchise tag him. Like that's nuts.
I wrote an article about Daniel Jones coming to the Cardinals one time, and it was like I felt crazy for writing it, and now I don't.
And it's like, okay, you look at the other options. Aaron Rodgers, old. Russell Wilson, washed. Like, and then you have like reclamation failed
Kirk
projects like Zach
Cousins.
Wilson and like Trey Lance. Like, no, like
Yeah.
you have Jacoby under contract through 2026. You have that veteran bridge guy. You need a younger guy you can kind of form and mold around. It's not available in the free agency. The trade market, like the Tua swaps make me laugh. JJ
Mhm.
McCarthy, no thank you.
No.
Like and the only guy I would like understand if they went after would be Mac Jones. The Niners aren't going to trade him in the division. You can make an argument
Yeah.
the Niners are
Yeah.
better off keeping him and starting him over Brock
Right.
Purdy. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it's like if you look at the draft, as of right now, as of today, they have the number 8 overall pick. They're not going to get at least staying there. They're not going to get Dante Moore, Ty Simpson, or Fernando Mendoza at pick number 8. The teams above them, you can argue like 4 or 5 of them off of the rip would take a quarterback ahead of them. So like trading up to get one of those guys is going to be tough sledding. It's going to be a lot harder if the Cardinals are dead set on replacing Kyler Murray this year. It's going to be so much harder than people think, man. It really is.
And that's, I think, been the case for a while. Like that's been one of the issues with this Kyler discourse is I've kind of always fallen in that camp of like, well, I'm not trying to defend him super hard, but like what happens if you get rid of him? Who takes over? I like what Jacoby's done. I think Jacoby's a good guy. I think he's a good player, and I think he's done well in the role he's been given. But that's not going to work long term.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I'm not super high on any of the draft quarterbacks. I think, maybe Mendoza, but I don't know. I don't think you're guaranteeing anything there. And there's nobody that stands out in a sense of like, no, you have to like this guy's going number 1 overall because he is gonna lead you to the promised
Yeah,
land.
there's not that guy in this class, man. It could have been Arch, but
Dude,
no,
maybe.
no.
Yeah.
I will say,
Wait a
we'll
year
get
for
out of
Julian
here.
Sand. I don't know.
Um, the Cardinals have been to Oregon a lot in terms of sending scouts to games, so I think the Dante
Mm,
Moore interest is legitimate.
yeah.
I do buy that.
I think schematically he would be the one that would fit the best, but it might be an entirely new scheme next year. So we don't even know.
We could do a whole nother episode on that. We probably will do a whole nother
Yeah,
episode
why not?
on that, man. Yeah, why not? Right? Just two goobers yapping. All right, but do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No.
All right. Where can people find your stuff, my guy?
Go phnx.com for Cardinals and sign up for my daily newsletter and si.com/MLB/on/SI/Diamondbacks if you like the Diamondbacks.
Love that, man. You follow me on Twitter at Donnie Drew and follow to work at SI.com/NFL/ONSI/Cardinals. However it is, I got to change the banner down at the bottom, but we persevere. We will be back. Thank you guys for all the support. It's greatly appreciated. And until next time.